Welcome to Macey's Cooking. I'm your host, Afua Daines, and today I'm going to cook some really a fast way of cooking, let's say, baking bread, artisan bread with tomato soup. We're coming into the fall, and there's an abundance of tomatoes, and so I thought I'd use them. Okay, so as I was saying, this artisan bread is so simple, doesn't need kneading, and it takes literally even a 5-year-old. My son, who is 8, demonstrated to his classroom how to make this bread, and they loved it. It's like a French Parisian baguette. Okay, so the first thing that you need, it's really easy. All of my things I bought from Macey's. I love Red Mill. I just feel like their products are clean and where they're coming from. So far, I'm being very pleased with it. So the first thing I use, I have tried all different kinds of gluten-free flour for this bread, but it involves a lot more ingredients. So this one is basically all-purpose white unbleached flour that you can also use for bread making. Okay, so you take 3 cups, and seriously, anyone can do this. You got 3 cups of flour. Because my life is pretty hectic, I like really fast stuff. And with this bread, you can leave it to rise overnight. So it only requires 1/4 of a teaspoon of yeast. So this is about 3 cups, okay, 3 cups. 1/4 of a teaspoon of yeast. I have a yeast that I bought this at Macey's, but you can have different kinds. You can buy the big batch, and so you're just taking a small amount. And 1/4 of a teaspoon is, what is it? It's this amount. If you want it faster, then I use 1/2 teaspoon, and then you use warm water to put it together. But this is, you just put it all together. This one packet makes up 1/4 of a teaspoon. So you just open this up, put the whole thing in, just like this. And then the next thing that you need is some salt. So with my salt, now I am very particular about my salt. This salt, I'm not even going to turn it over, though you can buy it at Macey's. I love pink salt, Himalayan salt. It has all the minerals, and our bodies are really, it's essentially minerals that we need, our bodies. And when you buy iodine table salt, it's all been taken out, and it really doesn't enrich your, it's not a healthy way. It's not a healthy salt to eat. So, but for now, we're going to use this salt. So you need about a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon and 1/4 for the bread making. So I pull that in. That was a teaspoon, and then 1/4. Oh, where's my 1/4? Here it is. There you go. This is a teaspoon and 1/4. And then depending on how much time you have, this is tepid water, so it's kind of warm, or you can use hot water, depending on how fast you need your bread. We used to do this before going to bed, and then it will rise by the morning. It will be ready to bake. And so if you want it in 4 hours, it's the same ingredients, but you use warm water, hot water. Not boiling, but enough for you to put your hand and go, ooh, that's a little bit hot. And so then you just mix it all in. You put this water in. And let's use a spoon. You can use your fingers, but yeah, no. Kind of gets a little bit sticky. But you just mix it all up, and you can use your hands or wooden spoon or whatever. But it's going to give a sticky kind of consistency. But this is exactly the consistency you want. Okay, if it's not sticky, kind of shaggy, look, add some more water. It will just you just mix it all up just like this. And that is your bread. Is that easy or what? See? There you have it. Now, all you do is, like I was saying, you can leave this for 4 hours. I've added warm water, and we're going to leave this for 4 hours. And I just love TV because, and then you put the cellophane on it, like ceramic wrap, or you can add a nice clean towel like this. I'm going to add later on the ceramic wrap. But, because this is a lovely show that I love, I did prepare one for you all so that you can actually get to taste. Now, this is what the result is. This is a double batch that I've made, okay? And so this was left over last night, and now what I do, I'm gonna, and this is 6 cups. This is a quantity for a very big one. So I use another thing that you'll need. You can have a Pyrex bowl, you know, the one that's made out of a heavy kind of china with a lid. In order to make this bread, the temperature you need is 450 degrees, okay, which is pretty high. There's some even out there that will require 500 degrees for the first half hour, 30 minutes, and then you reduce it down to 450. But this one that I'm using is 450 degrees for 25 minutes, and then you take the lid off, and then you bake it for another 10 minutes. And it'll have this hard crust around it, but then when you slice into it, the smell and the aroma comes out, and it's absolutely delicious. You're gonna get all of that. So right now I'm gonna preheat the oven to, I'm gonna preheat the oven to 450, put it on bake, 450. And whilst it's doing that, I love this new one. 450, there we go, found it. It's fantastic. I love technology. I love technology. Okay, that was from a movie. Anyway, so I have a Dutch oven. We love Dutch ovens, and did you know that Dutch ovens have, because of what it's made out of, it's really good for iron. If you like iron, cook in a cast iron and you'll be really fantastic. I've even still got we kind of leave it. This is what we use for baking our bread in. And so I'm going to put this in there so that it is hot as well. So whatever you use needs to go in there when you're preheating, so that when you pull it out and then you put the bread in, it just starts immediately to cook. And I think that's what gives that crispness. So I have to move this down a little bit. I'm just going to put this in the oven, like so. And of course, you don't need it that big. This is enough for a lot of people. My family could quite easily eat, you know, eat the whole thing in one night, but usually, I don't know, 10 people or something. Okay, so this is just normal flour. I brought some, but, you know. And I'm going to put this here. Okay. This is how it feels once it's risen, okay? And you just put this on top. You're going to fold it a little bit, but you're still not really kneading it as such as you do with the traditional bread. My mother-in-law I got a KitchenAid as a gift, and yet when you've got something like this, who needs a KitchenAid, right? But still, anyway. So I put some of this on there, then you're just going to turn it over. 1, 2, 3. Put a little bit more to get away from that stickiness. And then 3. Turn it over, hit it like that. See? And then, this is where you put your cellophane on. Leave it for 10, 15 minutes while that is pre-cooking. My oven, it takes approximately about 10 minutes to preheat up to 450. But that all depends on how your oven works. And so I'm going to get my cellophane, no, what do you call it, kitchen wrap, or, you know, that's cling film, maybe. And I'm going to get that so that I can put it over there, and then we can begin to make our tomato soup.
We'll be right back.
So we will be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Macey's Cooking Corner. I am your host, Afua Daines, and I've just made an artesian bread, and we're waiting for the oven to preheat to 450 degrees. And so whilst we're waiting for that, that'll take a few more minutes, I do believe. I am going to start making the vegetarian tomato soup, okay? especially in the summer, even in the winter, I really like to not eat as much meat. And so my neighbor, brought over some tomatoes, fresh tomatoes. You can make this with a can of tomatoes, but then I thought, why not use this as well, okay? So I've got some fresh tomatoes from their garden. And by the way, I also found some of my cling film. Is that right? Saran wrap. Saran wrap. I don't know why I call it cling film. Anyway, okay, so the first thing that we need in the recipe is a medium-sized onion, and you need it to chop it up. You know, you don't have to fine chop it because at the end, we're going to blend everything. We're going to blend everything in the blender, obviously. So I'm not going to be doing the chef-style chopping. So we just blend this, and this is so fresh, and this is another way to use all your tomatoes. Yesterday, I had a whole bunch of tomatoes that I blended up and I froze because I love to have the taste of fresh tomatoes as opposed to canned is so different. Really, it is world of difference when you're making spaghetti, if you're making a crock pot. I like to make crock pot meals, and I think we should do one of those too for busy mothers, as I am. And here we go. All right, don't like the end bit, so first I'm chopped up the onions. Like I said, roughly chop them up. I also love onions. I think it gives great flavor to anything. And I used to have a friend who ate raw, so she didn't have anything. Everything she ate did not, heat wasn't above 125. And she made a tomato dish. Okay, before I finish my story. So I have about 2 teaspoons of olive oil. I love extra virgin olive oil. I just love that. I use this for everything practically, and coconut oil. And so for this, I'm using about 2 tablespoons. Probably need a little bit more, but not that much more, but okay. And so I've let that heat up a little bit, and now I'm going to let it cook. I'm just saute. I saute the onions. Oh, look at that. Until they get soft, a little bit soft. Maybe have turned into a slight color. They have a slight color about them. So we'll just do that for a couple of minutes, and we'll see. So just chopped, but not too much. Yes, and so she would, I mean, for this tomato soup is really easy to make. You have your onions, tomatoes, and then your herbs. Garlic, and these have been washed. Have these been washed? I'm just trying to remember if I actually washed them before I put them in the bag. I do. So because I'm not sure that I, remember, I'm going to wash them again, even though these are coming from my friend's garden. And I'm using normally you can use 15 ounces of diced tomatoes that you can get here at Macey's. Like I said, most of my produce, apart from the actual tomatoes, are from Macey's. Or, like I said, I'm using about 5 or 6, depending how tomato I love tomatoes. And tomatoes are very good for women and their reproductive system, high in vitamin E, and also for men, it's very good for you too. So I'd go out and eat a lot of tomatoes, but eat a lot of vegetables. Okay, so I have my tomatoes. Let's just check real fast the onions. Make sure that they're doing great. I have it on medium. So you just saw, the onions are cooking just lovely. And whilst they're doing that, I'm also checking the oven to make sure it's going up. Like I said, this might take a little bit longer. Anyway, I like to take these off, roughly chop up the tomatoes. Oh yes, and my friend, she would make raw tomato soups, and all she would do was have your tomatoes, she would chop them up, add a few onions or green onions, put some herbs in, and then she would put it in a Vitamix. Now, this Vitamix is pretty high-powered, and you can do it just a little bit to warm it. You can actually warm things in your Vitamix, this type of blender. Or you can actually warm your tomato mix, your tomato soup just a little bit, slightly, just to fill it, and that would be it. And all your nutrients and all the healthy minerals and everything you need is in this soup without even, you know, boiling it all down. So I know that with this soup, I'm not going to actually overcook it, because I like to have that flavor still left in the, you know, in whatever I eat. So, like I was saying, we're gonna also add tomato paste, a teaspoon of tomato paste, gives it more concentration. I love Hunt's. They come out with a really good, tomato ketchup, which has no high fructose corn syrup or any kind of all of the other stuff that they have. And I think actually they've come out with an organic one, which is even better. It's wonderful that there are more organic products out there. Whether you believe it or not, some of the things do taste better. That's by Afua Daines, by the way. Okay, so now my tomatoes are all chopped up, almost like that can that you would put in. See, I didn't take the skin off or anything. I think it's all absolutely delicious. And I have washed this, by the way. I'm gonna taste one. Delicious. Just, you know, I could just do that. Put it in a poultice and just do that and drink it. Oh, it's delicious. Okay. So it's just sauteed, right? Now we're going to add, actually we'll add half a tablespoon of tomato paste. And we'll mix that in. Just really ease quickly. And then I'm going to add half a teaspoon of minced garlic. I usually, if on a normal day, I have fresh garlic in my house. And so I'd mince 2 cloves of it. And so because it's so concentrated, I'm doing half a teaspoon of that. And I love ginger. I don't know if some of you like ginger or not, but I love ginger. And I would usually have I bought this at Macey's and I'm gonna try this out. Smells like ginger. I love ginger. You know what? When you are sick, this is a little tidbit, okay? When you are sick and you're not sure how to get rid of a cold or a sore throat, I usually get a thumb, you know, about this size of my thumb, and take the skin off of a ginger root or rut, or however you say it. I say root. And take the skin off, add some raw honey, and chew on it. Until you do that twice in that evening, tomorrow you'll feel like just bouncing off the ceiling. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And then you can even add yourself a drink. Have honey, raw honey, warm water, ginger, grated ginger, mix it all up. You'll be superwoman the next day, or Superman actually. Okay, and I even do it for my kids. You add a little bit more honey to give it flavor, and they are good to go. So, ginger for everything. So again, I'm gonna just add half a teaspoon, okay? And then let us put this in here. This is a really, really easy peasy cheesy. What do we say to the children? Easy peasy. Oh man, I've forgotten what that is. Squeezy, cheesy, lemon squeezy, something like that. Okay, so we're gonna let this simmer now we're gonna let it come up to a boil for a little while. It's so juicy, the juice is gonna come from it. You can also add a bouillon if you want, a vegetable bouillon. Sometimes I like the liquid style, but today I haven't even bought that. I've just left it just like it is. Also, I've seen for this recipe, you can add carrots to it. You know, you can either juice a carrot and put a cup in there, or you can just add carrots to it. But this is very simple, very easy, and it'll taste fantastic with the bread. It'll be wonderful. So now we're just waiting for the heat to rise up. And so we will be back. Welcome back to Macey's Cooking Corner. I prepared artesian bread, the easy style, and I've also have simmering tomato soup on the stove. Now the stove has, Now in the oven has preheated to 450 degrees, and so now what I'm going to do is I bring it out. I don't bring the whole pot out because right now it's really hot, okay? Or sometimes I'll put it on the stove, but for convenience sake, I usually will take this off the saran wrap and just move it out a little bit. I might even, if it's sticky, I add a little bit more flour, just a little bit more, so that it's just a little bit, it's easier to maneuver out. Okay, turn it out a little bit more, and it's just beautiful. It feels great, it smells great. Okay, and then what I like to do, oh look, it's even got a little pocket there, but I also, this is all right. This was clean, by the way. I like to make little slits, as if you're making, little Parisian baguette or a loaf. So you just do these little slits here so that when it bakes, it opens up and it's just fabulous. So now I'm going to open my oven, like I said. Remember, this is very hot. 450 degrees is a very hot temperature. So please use oven mitts, and if your children are around, make sure that they're far away. So I pull this out, and I take the lid off, okay? And then, as I was saying, I like to, some people, there's different styles. If you look this up, some people have this on parchment paper, and they'll put the whole parchment paper inside the Pyrex bowl. Also, make sure, this is cast iron, so it can take high heat. Whatever kind of bowl you do use, I like Pyrex with a glass top. If you use a top with a plastic, any kind of plastic, it will melt. Done that one too. Okay, so I suggest make sure that it's either cast iron, porcelain, glass, and you'll be fine. Throw it in there, pick up the top. And there you have it for, oh, hold on. Oh. There we go. See? Just a little bit of maneuver was needed there. My soup is coming along wonderfully. Smells fantastic. Now I'm going to add some herbs. You can add thyme. I love thyme, fresh thyme I usually like to add, but today I'm using Italian. I love Italian. It has the oregano. This one has oregano, thyme, and other spices. And you can get all of these at Macey's here in Spanish Fork. So I add about a teaspoon. Okay, so can sprinkle some on depending on your taste. I just do it this way. Okay, got some spice there. This is basil. That was basil. I love basil for everything. Bay leaf, I even throw in bay leaf sometimes, but not too much because the spices can also, the herbs can overpower things. Herbs are amazing. If you can get it fresh, it absolutely helps all parts of your bodies. Each herb has medicinal properties. For this salt, again, I do love Himalayan salt. The minerals in there is fantastic. And we could go into a whole show about salt and minerals, but I won't. Okay, so about a teaspoon, and put some in. This is all depending on your own taste. And also, I would use a little bit of cayenne to give it a spice. And I didn't bring any of that in today, so it's all according to your taste buds. So today I've left it slightly mild, and you can taste, the goodness of the heartiness of the tomatoes. Otherwise, sometimes cayenne consumes the taste. Anyway, so that is done. Now what we'd like to do, I'm going to take that off the stove because I like it. I don't like my, when I make soup, I like it to still be fresh. that the onions, there's peppers. You can add peppers to this. I mean, this is beautiful, and it's a really easy meal to make. So what I usually like to do after that is that, although it's hot, now this is a Vitamix, and a Vitamix is like 16 horsepower or something like that, but it is a really powerful one. Some people have Blendtec. I have a Vitamix, and I love it. And so I'm going to put this in here, and then I'm going to blend it for about less than a minute. You'll see it's smooth, and then I'll return it back to the heat and taste it. And then if I need to add any more spices or, you know, seasoning, then I'll adjust the taste. So here we go. This is for about 1 to 2 people with the bread. This is a nice light meal. This is a nice light meal that you can eat. I always like to eat a heavy meal, hearty meal, either for breakfast or for lunch. In the evening, I want something light because I really don't want to go to bed with a stomachache or heaviness. I want to feel still powerful, so I like to eat something light, and it feels good. So I am now going to blend this, and so stay tuned again, okay? So I have just blended this, and you'll see that it is blended pretty well, but not so much so that it's just completely smooth. And then now I tasted it as well, and I think it still needs a little bit more salt. So I'm gonna put it back on the pot. You don't have to do this, just because it's still hot. In this blender, you can blend very hot foods here. But I love the color that has come out from this. It's just beautiful, beautiful summer color. And so I'm just putting it on for another couple of minutes, and it is done. And I'll add a little bit more. Also, the recipe that I found for this suggested that you could add some sugar. You know, if you want it more sweet, there you go. I don't. I like to taste the tomatoes and not sweet and sour kind of deal. So I think that was another teaspoon. That was about another teaspoon of salt that I added. You can add again, as I was saying. You can add some cayenne or some black pepper, ground black pepper. But I always, again, like to do that once when I'm ready to eat with my bread. And that is your vegetarian tomato soup. Very easy. And voila, voila. Now the soup is complete. You can see the beautiful texture. And also, now the bread is ready to come out. Because it's so hot, 450 degrees is very, very hot. And this Dutch oven is also very heavy, so you have to be very careful. I usually take 3 or 4 oven mittens before I take it out. So I'm going to do that right now, and it's very heavy as well. I usually like to leave it on the stove. Normally I don't use something so big. It was only for the fact that I had so much dough. So, but now, I'll need that to open the, yes, we don't want to do this with bare hands. 3rd degree burn, not today. Okay. So there you have this beautiful, beautiful bread. Now we're back. I've taken the bread out. It's cooled down. It takes around about between 15 and 30 minutes to cool down for you to actually manage it. You can, I prefer to leave it to cool down, otherwise it feels a little bit doughy as well if you haven't left it in long enough. And so when it stays in the pan, it's still cooking a little bit. So now I can actually take it out, and there you'll see our completed. And this bread, yesterday, the other day I was talking to a friend and I was calling it artesian bread, like an artesian well. Actually, it's artisan or no-knead bread, not artesian. But I like that word so much, I was using it, okay? So it's artisan bread or no-knead bread. And it's been very popular, especially back east. It's easy, it's quick for families that want to eat their own healthy bread, but they have no time to be kneading it. So that's what it's really called, the no-knead bread. Okay, now I'm just gonna slice a couple, cut a few slices, and you can see the inside. And then we can dunk it in with our tomato soup. And you can see the inside. The outside is crusty, but the inside is really soft. And there you have it, see? Really soft inside. My children love to eat this middle and they'll leave the crust, but I love the crust, and so I'll usually dunk that in with my soup. And so there you have your soup, a couple of slices, well, your bread too, you got something to dunk. So now I'm going to show you how to eat a traditional soup. You have to break it off, you don't want to do the whole thing, and I'm going to taste some of this with a spoon. Taste all the flavors. And if you're really European, right, you're going to take a little bit with the bread. Who needs butter? Obviously you can use butter or Smart Balance or wherever you are in health. But the bread is fantastic. And there you have it, very quick, easy fall kind of meal. Your tomato, vegetarian tomato soup with a no-knead artisan bread. Really quickly made with 3 ingredients, flour, yeast, and salt. Something that everyone can make, and you can cook it for half an hour, and there you have a meal. Thank you for watching Spanish Fork, Macey's Cooking Corner here in Spanish Fork.